Social study classes in Minnesota will now look different from when we were students. The state of Minnesota is revamping its standards to enhance learning in the classroom. KIMT News 3's Brandon Cote is joining us live from John Marshall High School with how these updated standards are meant to create a more inclusive learning environment for all students. Brandon.
Well, Jess, the state is required to update and review its social studies standards every 10 years. And for this time around, the Minnesota Education Department decided to add an ethnic studies component to its standards to address racial disparities inside the classroom. The standards will guide educators to include how social identities intersect with themselves and other marginalized groups throughout history. It's now up to Minnesota school districts to build a social studies curriculum that best follows the updated standards. Different benchmarks will be applied to every grade level to ensure learning is age appropriate, but the Minnesota Department of Education is still working to finalize those standards. I spoke with one of the committee members who drafted these guidelines. She tells me this new criteria will make positive progress toward the creation of equitable learning environments.
It affirms and engages students who haven't historically been affirmed or engaged meaningfully in their school experience. And those early years in school really do set the trajectory for a child's entire education experience.
Indigenous studies will also be incorporated into these standards to teach students about the history of oppression tribal groups have experienced here in the state of Minnesota. Live in Rochester, Brandon Cote, KIMT News 3.
Thank you, Brandon. Minnesota school districts will start adding ethnic studies into their curriculums at the beginning of the 2026-27 school year.